I'm Steve Ingram. I lead pre-sales for Progress Semaphore. Semaphore is Progress's semantic AI product, probably known more widely known as Smart Logic. And I'm going to be covering how enterprise semantics can enhance a RAG solution, leading to better outcomes and hopefully lower costs. So there we go, press that button. Gen AI is happening, it's a thing. And economists are forecasting an industry worth over $1 trillion by 2032 in the US economy alone. Whereas Gartner are predicting that there's going to be an awful lot of money wasted before that happens, with 30% of projects failing in the next year or so. But if you follow the guidance in these presentations, and I've been really enjoying the kind of convergent evolution as everybody comes to a point around RAG, you're going to maximize your chances that your project will not be one of the ones that fails. So for all the promise in Gen AI, there's still very many challenges that need to be addressed before it can deliver real value. And studies have shown that hallucinations can occur between sort of 15 and 20% of the time. Data biases, an LLM asked about career choices might suggest that nursing was more suitable for a female candidate than for a male, reinforcing an outdated and inaccurate stereotype, because that's what was represented in the data that was used to train the LLM. Data which is inevitably going to be out of date. So we have timeliness and cutoff issues, and that's not even before we start to consider security issues and intellectual property issues and all those kind of factors. But the biggest challenge, though, is context and understanding. LLMs are limited to the world as defined by the data they're trained with. And the context of a piece of information is as important as the information itself. We need things, not strings. And it's a semantics problem. Well, I would say that, wouldn't I? But bear with me, hear me out. This is my favorite example. The word gas. It's 3 letters. But those same 3 letters have a completely different meaning depending on where in the world you're based. In North America, it's what you put in your car. Everywhere else, it's not a solid and not a liquid, and it's more often than not hazardous. But even going the other way, let's look at what people in the rest of the world put in their car. Most people call it petrol, or we may call it diesel. If you're a trader or involved in getting the stuff out of the ground, you're going to call it petroleum or petroleum products. If your job is in logistics, you might use the HAZChem code 3YE1270. If you're a chemist, you're going to be more comfortable using the chemical formula. But it is the same thing. So we have a single word referring to multiple concepts. We have multiple words for the same concept. It's a semantics problem. But all an LLM has is the proximity of words. They have no way of expressing concepts such as usage in any other way. And that's going to be okay for consumer-focused applications where just taking the most common use of the word is likely to be acceptable. But decision-making in organizations typically requires a greater level of detail. Now, for example, here's the answer to the question, can you give me a few examples of companies that are incorporated in California? Well, that looks like a decent list. If you were to say Californian companies, these are the ones you'd probably think of. Maybe not Tesla these days, but you know what I mean. And the first one, in fact, is correct. The rest, yeah, not so much. And this is because the LLM does not understand what is meant by incorporated in a legal context. Now, most people don't really care about the distinction, but there will be people for whom it is important. So, we have a problem. We want to be able to get accurate and relevant answers from Gen AI and be able to rely on those answers without incurring the expense of developing our own LLMs. Now, RAG provides LLM with the business context, allows it to give relevant, accurate, and trustworthy answers. In fact, RAG is really starting to come into its own. Now, not so long ago, the industry was disparaging RAG as a solution, not really surprisingly. The vector database vendors want you to take all your content out of the systems that you use currently and put it into a vector database. And NVIDIA wanted you to invest in large data centers with lots of shiny chips. But times have changed. Organizations can leverage Gen AI using what they already have. Now, I'm going to talk about how the steps towards putting that solution, and this is all part of what we refer to as the Progress Data Platform, which is a solution combining many of Progress's application and data platform products, including OpenEdge, Data Direct, Cortigon, MarkLogic, and indeed Semaphore. Now, this solution is designed to allow organizations to take advantage of modern technologies, such as Gen AI, such as knowledge graphs, data mesh, and data fabrics, but in an organic manner, leveraging what is already in place. And this is how we use the platform to enable a RAG solution. So this is typical interaction with an LLM. A user formulates a query, they pass that query to the LLM responds with an answer. It may not be the right answer, but it responds with an answer. But what is missing from this picture is subject matter expertise and context from your internal assets, your internal data. And this is exactly what RAG brings to the equation. So the first step is to leveraging your internal knowledge is to make it accessible. Now, knowledge exists in two forms. Implicit knowledge is what's in your experts' heads, and that's at least as important as the explicit knowledge, which has been committed to, well, paper or some form of electronic record. And we use Progress Semaphore to capture subject matter expertise into reusable knowledge models. We call them knowledge models, sometimes called control vocabularies, taxonomies, business glossaries, call them what you will. It's all encapsulating the expertise that is inside your organization. And for explicit knowledge, we have Progress MarkLogic. It's an enterprise strength multimodal database that works particularly well as a metadata hub and also provides very capable full text index and now indeed vector search capabilities. So now we have both our explicit and implicit knowledge under control. It's all plain sailing, right? Well, not quite. The next step is to align the implicit and explicit knowledge to build a knowledge graph. In our case, we use the Semaphore classification server to enrich the data held in MarkLogic using rules generated automatically from the knowledge models. So this is applying a rich and consistent and relevant layer of metadata over the top of the internal content. And now that the content is enriched, we can do the same for the question. We can use the semantic enhancement server, which is another component of Semaphore, to enrich the question. So we can identify, enrich the question, and then we can use the vector search capabilities, BM25, and other search algorithms to identify the relevant content that can be then used to accompany the question to the LLM. And we can further extend this mechanism to provide on-demand vectorization of content, so it's offering significant savings in exploiting Gen AI. Now, as our content is semantically enriched, we can identify the relevant sections of our documents and use these and only these to accompany the original question. So we can maximize the benefit, but also keep safely within token limits, further keeping costs under control. And this additional information is what gives the LLM the context it needs to be able to give specific answers. So we have, to demonstrate this, we actually created a simple application. And then we took our internal product documentation and semantically tagged it in a RAG solution. So we can ask this platform a question. And on the first panel, on the left-hand side, we're getting the response from a public LLM without any private data. The next panel is a combination of the LLM and the private data, and the third panel is showing how a knowledge model can also contribute to this process. Now, in this example, we asked about MarkLogic and digital twins, which is a digital representation of a real entity, such as an aircraft or a train. Now, the LLM has a response as it found some public data on our website. But bear in mind that data is going to be out, it's probably 2 years old. Our private data brings back more accuracy and indeed now links back to the relevant internal documentation. But if we add the knowledge model to the solution, the improvement is marked. Now, a device shadow is another way to describe a digital twin. The LLM cannot answer the question because it wasn't trained on any content from MarkLogic that uses the term device shadow. Our internal documentation is not much better because it's not a term that was used when the content was created. But by combining this with a knowledge model, where the relationship between device shadow and device digital twin is known, we can now use the we can now sort of serve the same content up to answer a related question. And early results from this solution have been exciting. Customers are reporting a massive increase in correct answers, in one case up from 50% to 90% and indeed beyond. And these benefits are being realized in weeks, not months. And it's the last statistic that I find truly remarkable. So 99.5% accuracy. So in the test of 200 questions, only one of them was not correct. And if you can compare that to an unmodified LLM, which could return between 30 and 40 incorrect answers in the same sample, that's bad enough. But if with that many incorrect answers, you're increasing the chance for a plausible but misguided answer coming back with potentially huge implications. So RAG is delivering on the promise of faster, better, more accurate, and more reliable answers by leveraging what you already have under your control. A RAG-based solution can easily be adapted without costly retraining and is agile, adapting to specific enterprise needs and operational contexts. So giving organizations adopting RAG have a competitive edge without the need to reinvent the wheel or retool processes that have been working well for years. So by way of conclusion, we have a virtuous circle. Using RAG, semantics can be used to harness the power of Gen AI. And indeed, Gen AI can also be used to enrich semantic modeling, although that is a subject for another presentation. Retrieval augmented generation powered by semantics will deliver significant benefits, but those benefits are only going to be, they'll be maximized by organizations that take information science seriously and the management of both implicit and explicit knowledge.